Good morning. Let us gather with a morning song. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing Morning Has Come, hymn number 1000. That's the first hymn in the Teal hymnal. Please be seated. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. I am the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, and along with the Reverend Jay Brooks and the Reverend Jennifer Brower, I serve as minister of this congregation. We invite you to come here and make a home, to bring your learnings, your knowings, your experience, your own story, to join with the story of others in this place. Ours is an active congregation, and I ask that you take part in the many events and activities here. Find what feeds your heart, your mind, and your spirit, and become involved. It's the best way to get to know this congregation. After worship, please look over the announcements in your order of service. You will find there are usually quite a few. But I want to lift up today the fact that our congregation is starting its holiday season. We have a number of collections which we take and activities which we involve ourselves in that bring the spirit of joy and hope out into the community. So each year, the Social Justice Committee collects donations to purchase Thanksgiving turkeys for the guests at the North Shore Soup Kitchen and the AIDS Center of Queens County. We have so far collected $1,668, but we need $2,500. So that's just $832 short. So please stop by the table in the lobby. We'll be grateful for any donation which you choose to make. Today, you will also find in the lobby our mitten tree, which provides holiday gifts for children who are clients of the AIDS Center of Queens County. Please take a mitten from the tree, purchase a gift, and bring an unwrapped gift back to put under the tree by December 8th. Don't worry, you'll get weekly reminders. Okay. It's a lot of fun. Also today, our 7th and 8th graders are serving a lasagna lunch in the UU Cafe after the service. This is a fundraiser for Share the Light. Our kids take part in the Share the Light program, so they take the funds that they're going to collect and they're going to go out shopping and buy gifts that they will give to other children in Nassau County. There is also going to be a congregational meeting today after the service, so you can leave the service, go to the UU Cafe for lunch, and then come back for the congregational meeting. Next Sunday, We'll have our annual family Thanksgiving worship service. Everyone will be here of all ages together for the whole service. Everyone's invited to bring bread of their choosing to share, bread from your family or cultural traditions, or just bread that you love to eat. Because after the service, everyone will have a chance to share in eating the bread. During the service, you'll have an opportunity to share the story of the bread with all of us gathered. So, now, as is our custom, would you greet your neighbor?
Words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. A person will worship something. Have no doubt about that. We may think our tribute is paid in secret in the dark recesses of our hearts, but it will out. That which dominates our imagination and our thoughts will dominate our lives and our character. Therefore, it behooves us to be careful what we worship, for what we are worshiping, we are becoming. Please rise in body or spirit, or both, as we sing hymn number 112, Do You Hear?
Good morning. I invite you to join in the words and song of affirmation, which are printed in your order of service. Please remain standing in body or spirit. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, this do we affirm and covenant with each other. Please be seated. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm the inherent worth of every person. We encourage one another to spiritual growth and seek to build a world where justice, equity, and compassion are the basis of all human relationships. These are not small aspirations. But we cannot live lives of meaning and purpose by playing it small. Graced with an abundance that has been our blessing, this congregation's vision, which has led us to support far-reaching efforts to build a more just and joyful world. We are connected to all that is, and our life together is one expression of that interconnectedness. From the bounty that blesses us, may we offer financial gifts to support the vision and life of this congregation. Would our ushers please come forward?
Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds, and every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this: the fires and the black river of loss whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. As you are moved to do so, bring sorrows and hopes to this beloved community by lighting a candle. Do take care not to reach across an already burning flame.
Let us take a moment to sit in silence before these, the lights of our joys and sorrows, memory and hope. It is good to open our hearts to one another. I offer you these words of Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and deep sea and deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. May it be so.
Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness.
Many thanks to the choir. Attention is the beginning of devotion. These are the words of the poet Mary Oliver. These words give the structure for this service and this sermon because it gave me reason for reflection. Mary Oliver was an American poet who died in 2019 at the age of 83. She was a white, gay woman writer living and working in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Her poetry is often a deep reflection on nature, and nature as a metaphor for our relationship with the divine. Oliver was considered by many to be the modern poet laureate of Unitarian Universalism. She spoke at General Assembly in 2017, giving the prestigious Ware Lecture. Other Ware lecturers have included the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Karen Armstrong, Cornel West, Norman Lear, Shirley Chisholm, and Jane Addams. So now I must say that for me, personally, I was once not a great fan of Mary Oliver. All that nature imagery, birds and grasshoppers and swans and kingfishers and rivers and waterfalls, they often left me feeling slightly uncomfortable. Now, often when I say this, and I have said this to people, they think that I have this feeling because I grew up as an urban person. But I'm also from people who originate from the American rural South. Folks who knew the land, so I know the land. And as a child, I run wild with my playmates as a pack in parks and playgrounds. We were asked to go outside from the time we woke up at daybreak and not to come back till the streetlights came on. Even in the city, in any city, there's birdsong and wildlife and the changing color of trees. A child can lie down on a sidewalk and watch and wonder as ants struggle to pull a crumb 4 times their size. And I've been told you can watch a rat carry a slice of pizza in a subway in New York. So, growing up in my family, we had pet dogs and cats and birds and fish and turtles. My brother loved turtles. And we cared for them deeply. And I know that you can find affection, compassion, and companionship with animals and in nature in ways that many struggle to find as easily with people. Still, I ask, when this happens, this connection with animals, with nature, can that be a bridge to gaining a greater depth of meaning in our human relationships as well? How are we deepening our relationship with our own human-animal pack? Can you give your attention to building the muscles for healthy human community? And when you talk about caring for the earth, can we remember that we are really talking about the welfare of people? A friend of mine said this to me, and I believe it's true, that perhaps for the earth, we humans are as the dinosaurs of this age. We tread now, but with our extinction, the earth prepares itself for another age when the planet hosts new creatures better suited for a new climate. In truth, then, we are not objecting to climate change on behalf of the earth, but for our own desperate need for survival. Human beings are dependent on the earth. It is not dependent on us. We are dependent on having an earth in a specific and particular state which enables life for us. Our needed attention to human life and human future is central to the climate justice movement being led by young people like Greta Thunberg. They ask us to be attentive to their future. It is not a mystery, but a great, amazing grace that we find that this specific and particular state needed for human existence on earth also depends on us developing sustainable ways of living that are just, compassionate, and equitable. Isn't it wonderful that to save this planet, we must save ourselves? Again, what held me back from the Unitarian Universalist adoration of Mary Oliver's poetry was her seeming distance from people. And mine is a theology of people. I tend toward a religious understanding focused on the agency, transformation, community, and creative spirit of people. But as happens, one year, when I was in seminary, I was taking a class at Virginia Episcopal Seminary. And I have to say, it's interesting for a Unitarian Universalist to be sitting in a class of Episcopalians. I was taking a class on poetry and theological reflection, and I was introduced to Oliver's poem, Singapore. It was the beginning of my seeing the rich language that Oliver can apply to people and her own understanding of the sometimes problematic nature of her nature poetry. So this is her poem, Singapore. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness ripped from my eyes. In the women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there, washing something in a white bowl. Disgust argued in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings, rivers are pleasant. And of course, trees, a waterfall, or if it's not possible, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together. Neither would win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first, we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She is washing the tops of the airport ashtrays, as big as hubcaps, with a blue rag. Her small hands turn the metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly or quickly like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for a moment that she loves her life. And I want to rise up from the crust and slop and fly to the river. This probably won't happen, but maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course, it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean the way she folded and unfolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. So there it was, a person, a laborer, far from the wild shores of coastal small-town Massachusetts, in the airport in Singapore, maybe a woman of color, someone making little or no money, perhaps with little or no formal education, maybe a person who comes home tired and unable to easily see the beauty of the natural world around her. Maybe it's hard for her to feel her connection to the divine. If we are attentive to this woman Can we become devoted to her welfare? Can we continually remind ourselves that the things which ravage the world, poverty, war, injustice, climate disaster, social collapse, will harm her first? The poor, the needy will be the first harmed and the deepest hurt. If the earth is to cry for human beings, the first tears will be shed for a woman like this one encountered in an airport bathroom. So my theology of people asks that I consider the fact that the poor are always with us because we, the people, the community, choose not to give our attention to making poverty end. Can we be devoted to making the changes which bring about justice? When Mary Oliver found herself face to face with a woman cleaning ashtrays in an airport bathroom in Singapore, what pulled to her heart? What moved her forward from that moment? She writes that she wondered if she should sit down with this woman, join in her labors, know her story. She wondered, should she help the woman rise up from her labors, join in her living, change the world to change her life? In our Unitarian Universalist community, we too must be attentive to this call to our hearts to find a way to make compassion, justice, respect for all human life, as well as the life of the nature and of the world. We must make these things real. This must be what we give our attention to, what we lean into and know deeply, what we are devoted to. We must find a faithfulness to humanity, a faithfulness to human peace and human justice. We cannot save this world otherwise. Our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to attention and devotion to a movement from liberalism to liberation, from our liberal faith to a liberating faith, one not founded in our personal need, but in our concern for one another. We all want to stand in a happy place in a poem. Indeed, we all want to stand in a happy place all the time. Our lives are full of happiness, full of wonder, full of joy, full of magical moments, and not. Sometimes that can mean that we turn away from the challenges of today because we all want to stay in a happy place. So it can mean that we are so anxious, so worried. We can't do anything about climate justice. We can't fix economic inequality. We can't bring around racial justice. We can't step aside from toxic politics. The anxiety of it all can be too much to bear, and we turn off the news. We back away from giving it our attention. We go out to the places of natural wonder and beauty, which is not hard here. We go out to the places of natural wonder and beauty. As Mary Oliver herself did in her lifetime, we retreat. We retreat like our Unitarian ancestor, Henry David Thoreau, did when he went to the cabin in Walden Woods in 1845. But I think like Oliver, and definitely like Thoreau, we are asked to go to this place to gain the strength to come back to the world, come back to the people, to confront the issues of our day. We retreat for reflection. We retreat to gain strength and perspective. We cannot live there. We go out into the woods, but like a distant God, our love of nature may give us hope, but it is people who will save the world. And we are those people. So, pay attention to each other. Give your devotion to one another. Worship the ways that we are making a loving community, because what we are worshiping, you are becoming. May it be so. Amen. Please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn number 1 in the gray hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. These are Mary Oliver's instructions on living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Amen.